Yes, a very good evening to you tuned into UBC TV. Welcome to our second edition of UBC News tonight. My name is Micheal Lukomwa, and we'll go right away to what we have for you this evening. President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has asked the church to avoid infiltration that can sabotage the prevailing peace and security across the country. He said that the beginning of the church in Uganda was faced with several resistances from the governments of the time, and that this was because of ideological misconceptions. The president made the remarks in a speech delivered by Vice President, retired Major Jessica Alupo, at the closure of a week-long gospel crusade in Fort Portal.
Upon our nation and region, and to see that we prosper, develop and keep the banner of the Word of God high, according to His will and plans for this nation. We therefore have reason to gather here and showcase the great works of God in word and in deed to the people in Fort Portal. I appreciate Pastor Imelda Namtebi Kula for the call of duty to shepherd God's people in her church, and I commend you for taking the gospel out of the buildings and performing gospel outreaches. The NRM government has successfully transformed the minds and understanding of Ugandans. We are now ready and are waging a war on idleness and poverty, especially amongst the youth in Uganda. When we launched the armed struggle, our aim was to build a new political order that prioritizes peace, security, and development, and the results can openly be seen today. I am glad this nation is blessed with God-fearing people, and we must all take on the mantle to serve God, pray and work hard for our nation, basing on God's principles of righteousness and justice to all mankind. The church in Uganda must position itself to participate actively in the socio-economic transformation of our society. Our preachers should therefore learn the science of transmitting God's words in the most digestible and practical manner to fulfill the economic vision of this country. It is indeed written in the scripture that my people perish due to lack of knowledge. While the church has played its spiritual role and been a good partner in development with the government in providing social services and relief to disadvantaged communities, the congregations as well have a part to play in supporting the church in fulfilling its mission. Gone are the days when we used to expect aid or relief from foreign countries to develop ourselves. We must position ourselves economically to benefit our families and the church in various ways. That is how best we can and shall realize transformation, especially at the grassroots level.
Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries has launched a campaign to create awareness about the benefits of milk consumption. The State Minister of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, Bright Ramidama, represented the Prime Minister at the campaign launch at Kakeka Playgrounds in Kakumiro. We'll have that story later on. But moving on, First Lady and Minister for Education and Sports, Janet Museveni, has said that there should be no further establishment of boarding sections in government-owned and grant-aided primary and secondary schools implementing the Universal Education Program. Public primary and secondary schools that already had boarding sections prior to joining the Universal Education Program will continue to run the sections. The First Lady, who is also the district chairperson of the NRM party in Ntungamo district, reacted to the issue of public schools establishing boarding sections while interacting with the NRM District Executive Committee of the NRM in Ntungamo district.
The First Lady, who is also the district chairperson for the NRM party in Ntungamo district, reacted to the issue of public schools establishing boarding sections while interacting with the NRM District Executive Committee for Ntungamo district at her country home in Ntungamo district. During the meeting, the DEC members brought to our attention the concern that government schools are forcing primary 6 and primary 7 pupils to become boarders by starting boarding section in primary schools.
Ituhati into the campaigning boarding schools, especially in government schools. We should have no boarding schools in primary or secondary boarding schools. When we are in Chagam, they are compulsory. No hoku gambicho. No hoku jang boarding are compulsory. Abantu nibabani bakora projects zabo aboko bani banda gukora musente bakozesa abana ubundi obushomero bukubi obubwa boarding worukusya every so often abana bakagwamu aboko bano nibakozesa ebizimbe bitahasirire ebintu byo services zone ziri mu bushomero nizibazigwire kunga bafusinga abana babatamu lero ubundi abana ba ending up nibagwamu mbwe nibyo bigwire bantu.
Mrs. Museveni emphasized that the principle behind the establishment of seed schools is to implement the government's universal education program meant to increase access and affordability of basic education to all citizens. She re-echoed the outcry of many parents and empirical findings by independent researchers that exorbitant school fees and charges are largely attributed to boarding sections in schools. According to the Ntungamo DEC members, some UPE schools in Ntungamo district have made boarding compulsory for primary 7 and primary 6 pupils, with each required to pay up shillings 300,000 or more per term. Mama Janet implored the NRM party leaders in their respective capacities to actively engage in playing their role of being the ears, the eyes, and mouthpiece of the implementation of government programs and utilization of allocated funds.
Mbwenati mureke twikirizane bajangwa bendemwe barwana noborekane ebintu bazo mu mbuga kurwana kunka umwamanaja mugenzwa atotagumkinare icyo ngicyo abo kubano bakurwana bona kunka nabendemwe mbwen mureke twikirizane bantu ngutugume tufokugezaho.
The minister appreciated the feedback from Mr. Sam Chunguzi, the LC5 chairperson of Ntungamo district, regarding the utilization of the shillings 1 billion additional funding to each local government in financial year 2023 to 2024 for the maintenance of roads. The minister also informed the meeting that the Ministry of Education had provided some funding in the current financial year to start patriotism training for students, albeit on a small scale. Reporting for UBC, Baguma William.
Moving on, Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court has charged the 36 FDC activists with terrorism. The accused arrested in Kisumu, Kenya by the Kenyan security operatives were deported to Uganda on Tuesday last week.
Before Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court appeared 36 arrested Forum for Democratic Change activists. Among was Samuel Makoha, FDC's Secretary Regional Relations, Katanga Faction, Mpuga Henry, Nachibinge Edward, Museven Innocent, Bukenya Akim, Kaigo Yosia, Lutorondwa Simon, Dr. Okero George, Nkonge Charissa, among others. The group was arrested in Kenya by Kenyan security operatives in Kisumu and later deported. The activists at Nakawa Chief Magistrates Court appeared before Magistrate Elias Kakoza and were charged with terrorism.
2nd day and 23rd day of July 2024, you all traveled from various places in Uganda to Kisumu in the Republic of Kenya for the purposes of providing or receiving terrorism training.
Since this court has no jurisdictions to try the offense against the accused, prosecution led by Richard Biri Vumbuka asked court for more time to complete the investigations. Magistrate Elias Kakoza remanded the accused until 13th August 2024 for mention of the case. The accused in court were represented by Baye Tulinamukama and Simon Wanda. Some of the FDC leaders who attended court spoke to us.
You ask yourself, were these people deported from Kenya or they were extradited? Were they, excuse me, we want to hear this from government of Uganda and the government of Kenya. Were these people extradited or deported? So if they had entered Kenya illegally, one, or if they had committed crimes while in Kenya, having entered there legally, they would be subjected to the legal processes of Kenya. They would be taken to the magistrate courts of Kenya.
Why doesn't Kenya arrest that trainer, the one who was going to give them training?
During a press conference last week, Paul Mogisha, the Director Liaison and Protocol from the Office of the President, told the media that the accused were arrested in Kisumu, Kenya, after failing to explain to the Kenya authorities why they had traveled to Kenya. The accused had alleged to have traveled to Kenya for 1 week leadership training. However, Kenyan security arrested and deported them to Uganda. The training was set to start on July 23rd up to 30th at the Ukuli Posto and Leadership Center in Kisumu, Kenya, and later delegates conference that was fixed for August 8, 2024, where the leaders of the party were to be elected. The suspects are said to have been members of FDC Katonga faction, who have been held at Nagalama police station until Monday this week. Prosecution alleges that between 22nd and 23rd July 2024, the group and others still at large traveled to Kenya for the purposes of providing and receiving terrorist training. Deborah Namamonde, Viola Nansubuga, UBC News.
Those are activists attached to FDC, the Katonga unit. Now, the Forum for Democratic Change, that is FDC Najana Nkumbi unit, has asked the judiciary to explain why last week's protesters remanded to Luzira prison for 2 weeks before their cases are heard. FDC spokesperson John Chikonyogo says that the cases are available. The complaint follows the protesters' allegation of rampant corruption in government.
When it was there for 2 weeks, it's very, very dangerous. Someone may take you to court just because he wants you out for 2 weeks. So by the time you get out of prison after 2 weeks, many things have changed. You have evidence with someone, give someone pay, he gets out, he brings his case to court, he's sentenced, and then he's taken to prison. Now suppose you find out that this boy who is taken to Rosita has no case. You've already punished that young man for 2 weeks in prison. That's already punishment. And you cannot erase it. It's already done. So we are concerned as FGC. All bailable cases should be, all those who have bailable cases should be bailed out, and then they stay out as their cases are still going on. Irrespective of the cases.
Police has called upon anyone with claims of having been sodomized in police custody to report at any police station for statement recording to aid investigations. Police spokesperson Rusoke Kituma, while addressing the media at the weekly police briefing in Naguru, denied any sodomy allegations purported to have been inflicted on the protesters.
In police operations last week, during the March to Parliament protests, at least 104 people were arrested. The police force is accused of using excessive force to counter the protesters.
An arrest is an acceptable action and privilege for police and law enforcement officers. The challenge is when, during the arrest, officers exercise their privileges over and above that is rational and necessary.
There are allegations of torturing suspects, particularly those arrested during the protests. Some protesters claim they were sodomized behind bars.
First and foremost, if we were to get any complaint of this nature, we would certainly not sit on it, because it would be a violation of the rights of a suspect. 2, the suspects who came through our hands on the day it is alleged did not spend a night in custody. They came, and as they had been collected, is the way they were taken to court.
Police claim the allegations are false and are intended to tarnish its image. It, however, urges the purported victims of sodomy to report to the nearest police station.
If there is anybody out there who says he was sodomized, come out and come and report to the police, because there is no other shortcut. We cannot deal with an anonymous victim.
Security have established that some groups fuel anti-corruption protests with ill intentions.
You can tell that there are people behind the 4 we met. That one, we have left it to the public to judge, but for us, we have insisted, and as security forces, we stick to our guns and say we know there are several other people behind this arrangement.
The Standing Security Intelligence predicts more demonstrations, which could warrant maintaining the current deployments in strategic positions.
So if we assess that the threat is still there, we shall maintain deployments that are commensurate with that threat. At the moment, we feel we need to have that deployment.
Police defend allegations of using excessive force to counter the protesters' response being proportionate to the situation. Patricia Nandago and Rogers Kumagum for UBC.
Uganda has borne the brand of one of the world's most protected refugee crises, hosting millions fleeing conflict and persecution. However, a large-scale development project aimed at easing the strain on host communities is yielding unexpected dividends, transforming lives and communities.
The Development Response to Displacement Impact Project, a $200 million initiative funded by the World Bank, has over the past 7 years invested resources into education, health, infrastructure and economic development across 15 refugee hosting districts. The goal was to alleviate the pressure on communities overwhelmed by the influx of refugees.
I am pleased to share with you that this project has made a very, very tremendous impact in both social service delivery as well as livelihood and the environment. If you see, for example, that this project has helped us to change the dynamics of the indicators in the education sector. We've been able to build classrooms, both primary and secondary. We've had about 1,057 classrooms. over 208 staff houses, units for both secondary and primary.
The results of the World Bank funded project under the Office of the Prime Minister is remarkable. It has ignited an entrepreneurial spirit among refugees and host populations.
We needed to support our people to turn these investments into highly productive ventures. So we have engaged about 12 different capacity building partners, and they are doing capacity development of our communities who are hosting refugees, as well as the refugees in the area of agriculture, better agricultural practices, turning agriculture, crop and livestock into making money.
Through grants, training and support, thousands of people have started their own businesses, from agricultural cooperatives to small-scale manufacturing.
As Dr. Deep came in with the idea of venturing into commercial farming and with the specific enterprise of cassava, we started to receive improved qualities of cassava varieties like Narrow Caste 1, Nase 19, and these varieties give a lot.
Enterprise Uganda has the mandate to offer technical knowledge.
The purpose of Enterprise Uganda coming on board is to bring in the business mindset so that these people who have been given assistance through the project take advantage of the project for them also now to continue to do economic activity. Anybody you are sending into business must know that business is the premise on specific laws, what I call a law of entry and a law of sustainability after entry.
The entity is taking charge of these components to impart life-changing business management skills through the Entrepreneurship and Business Skills Program.
If you came 3 years ago, the livelihoods of our communities was completely very poor. But looking at what is happening now, you see that the local economy of the district is improving. And this is evidenced by the fact that you go to other districts, you will not find banking institutions in those districts.
Enterprise Uganda has trained over 4,000 DRDIP beneficiaries from 220 groups across Koboko, Yumbe, and Moyo districts.
Amanya gange nze Namutebi Sharon nga nkolera wano wennyini Saka Kirombe oba Makindye. Empangula gye nawanguddemu ssente mbadde nga nkozesa mobile money nga nsindika school fees w'omwana ku ssomero. Okutegeera nti mpangudde, nze mutima neegambye nti kambalinde bamale okujja ndyoke nzikirize nti mpangudde. Kyennyinza okubagamba nti si byabafere, weewaawo abafere gye bali, naye ennamba eri emu yokka era bw'eba ekukubidde omanye eyo si yabafere. Mpulira bulungi nnyo 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 era ndi musanyufu nnyo. Naye MTN mobile money mbebaza nnyo, mwebale nnyo, mwebalire.
Together we're unstoppable. Gold. We all want it. That soft yellow glow of a subdued sun in your hands. That precious polish of elegance. To hold it is one thing, but to taste it is everything else. Relish the satisfying taste of a beer, unmatched in quality, unmatched in consistency, and with 23 Global Gold Awards. A beer unmatched in gold.
Government has set aside $35 billion to facilitate all medical interns in the country. The Undersecretary at the Ministry of Health, Akiri Kenneth, told the National Induction for Medical Interns cohort of 2024-25. The event was on the theme Navigating the Path from Students to Professional Life, Empowering the Future Healthcare Workforce at Makerere University.
Over 2,500 medical interns are to be dispatched to different health facilities across the country starting August for the cohort 2024-2025. Ahead of the dispatched exercise, the Ministry of Health organized a national induction. The acting permanent secretary at the Ministry of Health, Kenneth Akiri, notes that over 35 billion shillings have been set aside to facilitate the medical interns across the country.
The President, it is true, directed that we pay 2.5 per intern some time back when the numbers, were manageable. But because we operate a budget that has not grown, we discussed and agreed that for purposes of equity, given that the numbers had grown, we accommodate many numbers of interns and reduce the facilitation to 1 million to be able to accommodate quite a number. And that's the decision. From the time when that decision was made up to today, the budget has not grown substantially or significantly to be able to accommodate the area directive given of 2.5. So we continue to pay 1.5, rather 1 million even this time around.
We are going to be training them to do this now on hundreds and hundreds of patients, so that after 1 year, you can now allow them to go and treat the public on their own. So it is more intense than where they have been, and this is the purpose of this meeting. Now,
that allowance is not sufficient. It can't ably run a medical intern for a full 1 month. He's going to rent a house, he's going to pay transport, he's going to pay many bills, he's going to work about 36 hours shift. I feel it is inadequate, and my recommendation and what we shall strive for when we officially get there is to advocate and to ensure that this can be stepped up to an amount which is reasonable.
The acting permanent secretary calls upon the medical interns to understand and appreciate the economy they're operating in and there's challenges associated with their line of duty.
The government came in to give facilitation to mitigate, to cover some costs for interns. So we expect the interns to understand the situation that we are dealing with and to take it in good faith, and train, and qualify and come to serve their own countries.
Ministry of Health has assessed and accredited a number of general hospitals to be sure that they have the capacity to accommodate the increasing numbers of medical interns. Officials have urged the medical interns to ensure they address their grievances in a civil way for a betterment of the sector service delivery.
We don't want a situation where it appears like every conflict or every issue you have must be, dealt with in a radical manner. So we have advised them that once they detect a challenge at their workspace or where they are training from, those issues can be raised through the leaders who supervise them and, handled in a civil manner. So we wouldn't encourage, we call it civil disobedience, how do you call it? Those radical approaches of, placards on the street, it is not called for.
Zahara Abigaba, UBC News.
Education stakeholders want government to take over feeding of children in schools, saying that the current education policy that vests the responsibility in the hands of the parents has not been respected. This formed a key part of the recommendations given to the Education Policy Review Commission during their visit to Bugisu Sub-Region and Dango.
According to the Education Act 2008, feeding children at school is a responsibility for parents and guardians. However, parents seem to have ignored this pivotal role, leaving children to study on hungry stomachs. At Mulasi Primary School in Mbale District, during the Education Policy Review Commission's visit, teachers say parents in public schools no longer care to contribute money for their children or pack food for them.
Our parents assume that as the president pays UP for the children, he has to follow up and buy uniforms, cater for their meals, and other things in school. Children come to school at times without pencils, without even pens. When you ask them, they tell you, parents told us to go to school. The president supports them. They have forgotten their role as parents.
It's against this background that education stakeholders are recommending to the Education Policy Review Commission that the new education policy should come out clear on this, and government takes on this responsibility of feeding children in schools.
I request the government to find an alternative for these children to be fed, because they are doing without meals and they can't take in what we teach, more especially in the afternoons.
At Bududa Secondary School, the situation is not different. It's 10 minutes past 1 p.m. These senior 4 learners are in class during a lunch break because their parents could not afford 60,000 Uganda shillings for their lunch.
We have a challenge in this school, more especially with students who have not paid the lunch. We are suffering a lot. Senior 4s, we are doing our internal mocks, but it is a tug of war for me to revise even a kabook. This kabook, it is just a tug of war. We are going to do English, but I'm suffering a lot because in my stomach there is nothing. I'm just standing on the tea I took in the morning.
Other key recommendations for the new education policy include trimming of powers of school foundational bodies, review of primary school curriculum and align it with O-level curriculum, availing of enough ICT equipment to aid ICT teaching, harmonization of teachers' salaries, and making agriculture compulsory in all schools from primary level.
I would wish the government to provide us with adequate computers, because this is a new curriculum. It's coming up with students who are inquired to carry out research, and whereby in schools they have limited them to come out with phones. So we so request the government to provide us with adequate computers.
The termly assessment should be considered at the national level. Because now I look at assessing one person, that learner, only in 2 hours, at a time that maybe the person may not be feeling well. Look at that.
So when we make our recommendations to government, we hope they reflect not the views of these gentlemen and ladies here, but the views of the people who have been visiting all over the country. What we have seen in order to come out with a solution better for us.
In a rapidly changing educational landscape, these insights from educational stakeholders from Bugisu sub-region presented to the Education Policy Review Commission are meant to make Uganda's educational system more relevant, creative, innovative, and forward-thinking. Crispus Arinitswe, UBC News.
Government is being asked to increase more funding for extracurricular activities to enable students and pupils excel beyond academics. Former Minister of State for Social Affairs Christina Mungina Poru says that such activities bond students for future opportunities.
Personal hygiene, clean environment, and general home management have been the areas of focus. Houses have been constructed, utensils cleaned, plastic bottles collected, and decomposing rubbish disposed of.
To help other people at all times.
To the facilitators, the 3-day Girl Guide sessions here have not wasted their time.
When we came here, there was completely nothing apart from the nature growing around. The trees, but the structures were not there. These girls were given allocated portions as their homesteads, of which they were able to establish the homestead on the very first day of reporting.
We have peer educators here who are advocating to the community, basing on the girl child, to bring them up on violence, alcohol harm, alcohol consumption, domestic violence.
The successful hoisting of the flags has not left these pupils and students politically and patriotically the same.
Color parties salute the colors.
They attest to learning a lot and pledge to share the acquired knowledge.
Let's take for instance, like when you have to construct your main house, you have to use a reef knot. And there are some lashes you are supposed to use so that you come up with a good house and a strong one.
No one who can change a world without a woman, but a woman is the one responsible in changing the world. and I have learned that most of the youth have got spoiled with alcohol, and most of them have dropped out of school.
The evidence to what they have learned is seen in this inspection by former Minister of State for Teso Affairs. As a former guide, Christine Amongin Aporu is impressed.
The girls have gone through various topics, and we are telling the girls that it is not good to consume alcohol. We need alcohol-free environment, especially with our mothers.
To take this forward, it will require more funding from government towards core curricular activities.
My appeal, as I have come here, is to encourage the girls to keep in guiding as they grow, to ask the district education office and the municipal education office to budget for these activities of girl guides. We have the Boy Scouts the other side, but the girls must be encouraged to be girl guides, to put on our blue dresses, the blue uniform.
It's only this year, this financial year, that we have realized that government has given every district 10 million for a financial year. And when you divide that 10 million into the 3 terms, that means in every term you are only getting 3 million. But when you look at the different co-curricular activities, there are so many. 3 million alone cannot fund it.
The Girl Guide Camp brought together 150 female pupils from 16 schools and 54 girls from selected secondary schools. Henry Okrut, UBC.
The Patriotic League of Uganda Foot Soldiers officials have requested government to take all measures necessary to curb corruption. They encourage the youth to choose better ways of expressing discontent, such as bringing issues to competent courts instead of street protesting.
Slogan is never seek war over peace.
The Patriotic League of Uganda Foot Soldiers have commended government and security for handling the anti-graft protests professionally and requested for the arrested youthful protesters to be pardoned.
To appeal to the young generation that protests is not the best way of resolving conflicts. We have other ways that we can go through to resolve the conflict and the problem of corruption. We have elected our leaders, for example, who are representing us in Parliament. We can engage them at our constituency level and we make our voice heard up to Parliament. If we really think Right Honorable Anita Among is the problem and we want her out, these MPs can help us to remove Anita Among, other than us all going to Parliament, because these are our representatives. We sent them there as our voices. So let's use them for this particular occasion.
They addressed numerous dangers of street protests, citing destruction of property and hindering development.
Don't go in for these things, because the people who are inviting you for these issues are people who are looking for their own ways of getting money and other things. For them, they'll push you, and for them, they don't go there. So if you go in these ones, they'll arrest you and you'll be taken to court and you will stay in court for some time. So please, I call upon the youth, don't go for these unlawful protests.
The Patriotic League of Uganda Foot Soldiers urged the youth to use other peaceful and more organized processes to air their grievances rather than taking to the streets or storming Parliament.
Why can't youth find other ways of explaining or of expressing dissatisfaction apart from holding the protests? Stealing can also happen, like the business merchandises can be looted. So there is a lot which can happen once there is a protest that can paralyze the business.
Winnie Ainembabazi Katire, Nabasa Viola for UBC.
Police in Lira City temporarily blocked a procession by women who were marching against statements made on a local radio station in Lira by the Minister of Gender, Labour and Social Development, Betty Amongi. In a talk show on one of the radios, Honorable Amongi declared interest to run against Health Minister Dr. Jane Acheng in Lira come 2026 general elections.
The women started their procession from Lira Hotel and joined Obote Avenue through the main roundabout. At the main market, procession was temporarily blocked by police commanded by DPC Lira City. Police later cleared them to proceed on basis that they looked peaceful and willing to be guided.
But the move is good and they're showing satisfaction to our president as well as to our minister, Honorable Acheng. So as security, we're escorting them, but I want to caution our people, or whoever wants to march in town in a group, at least notify police.
On their placards, they showed dissatisfaction on statements made over a local radio station by Gender Minister Beta Mongi. They said the statements undermined the contributions of Health Minister and the woman MP in the health service delivery in Lira City.
We appreciate her so much for her effort.
I urge the Minister of Gender, hold on, she should do ministry work. Not until time for politics comes, then she come in, not now.
On a recent talk show, Amongi declared her interest to run against the Health Minister Jane Acheng in Lira City in 2026. Betty Amongi currently represents Oyam South.
Anybody who is coming from another distance, another constituency to come and disturb Acheng, we are not supporting.
She came here to give the position of the government on the matter of cultural institutions. As a member of UPC, it does not bother me because we believe in democracy. We believe that we have our agenda that is viable. And I believe strongly that it is the UPC candidates who is going to win come 2026.
Last week on a local radio station, Amongi said her bid is to keep Lira City under UPC since her husband Jim Akena is exiting Lira City East constituency to run for presidency in 2026. Ediulwa, UBC News.
President Yoweri Museveni has called upon leaders, church leaders, to join him in the country to fight corruption. He says church plays a pivotal role in creating unity for common cause against evil actions such as corruption. This was in his message that was read for him by State Minister for Lands in charge of Urban Development of Biga Mario Kania during a fundraising drive at St. Philip's Church in Arua.
President Yoweri Museveni has called upon the church to join him in fighting the vice. His speech was read by State Minister for Lands and Urban Development, Obiga Madiokania.
These are now the Presidency statement. I would like to call upon the church to join me in the fight against corruption. The NRM leadership has and continues to spread the gospel of a corruption-free Uganda based on the ability for all players to appreciate the need for individual commitment and behavioral change as the main route towards elimination of all forms of corruption at all levels. All of us must join in this war of corruption to avoid the resultant distortions and the effects thereof. The NRM, with gratitude, appreciates the people of Arua City for the support you have always given us throughout the democratic processes we have had to date.
President Museveni and Idro Taban, the owner of KKT companies, supported St. Philip's Church of Uganda with 30 million and 10 million shillings respectively during the fundraising drive, which was aimed to realize 4 billion shillings for the construction of a new church block.
I believe we shall have a magnificent church in the near future to serve the community better. I wish to salute the church leadership of the Diocese of Mahdi and West Nile Diocese under the stewardship of the Right Reverend Charles Collins Andaku for the invitation you accorded me to grace this momentous occasion and for the work you have been doing over the years of upholding the work of God. I thank all the people who have supported the growth and development of this church from its inception up to today. This occasion presents to all of us a challenge and a call for us to carry each other's burden in service by giving part of our proceeds to God. The big turn-up at this fundraising event is a testimony of your resolve to positively contribute to the advancement of the church and Uganda in general.
Joseph Odama, UBC News.
The Deputy National Coordinator for the Parish Development Model, Jovrin Karisa, has threatened to arrest non-performing community development officers and sub-county chiefs on ground that they are frustrating the implementation of the PDM. Karisa was shocked to learn that some parishes in Gulu district have not uploaded the names of the beneficiaries in the PDM database since April, when the district received 4 billion shillings in their first quarter.
The Deputy National Coordinator for Parish Development Model, Jovrin Karisa, told the sub-county chiefs and community development officers of Gulu district to ensure that all the PDM beneficiaries get their money.
These banks can process loans within 24/7 hours. And for us, in parish model in Guru here, we are sitting with the money for the last 5 months.
However, district leaders blame the delay in disbursement of the PDM funds to beneficiaries in the continuity gap between the last disbursement and the current, which was created by the district technocrats.
When the money came, the second release came, no groups were yet formed. I stay in the community. Around June, people were asking me, Honorable, PDM Kodong, what of PDM? You can see that at some point the continuity stopped. Formation of new groups stopped, and that caused delay in the disbursement. They are still forming new groups because at some point they had stopped.
However, the chairman of the PDM Circle for Oding Parish, Unyama Sub-County in Gulu District, attributes the delays of unstable network of some telecommunication companies.
That's the problem. You find all those people who are being selected, you come to the computer to enter their name. That's the household.
PDM is a government initiative that aims at eradicating household poverty. Irene Nantongo, UBC News.
Day 3 of the Paris 2024 Olympics has come and gone, with Uganda witnessing a plethora of activities, as we see in this compilation.
Rower Catherine Noble continued her competition at the Paris 2024 Olympics with a second-place finish that elevated her to the E-final this Friday. It will, however, be her last race for Uganda because she has hinted on retiring after representing Uganda twice and historically back-to-back at the Olympics. But as Noble declares her next move, a career-defining moment awaits Gloria Muzito, who enters the fray this Tuesday in the 100-meter freestyle at the La Défense Arena.
I think we're very ready. Gloria swims tomorrow, and I'm very excited to watch her and support her. She seems like she's been feeling good. Obviously, the entirety of Team Uganda is behind her and supporting her, so it should be great.
Jesse Sengonzi has till Friday to go in the 100-meter butterfly.
Today we were working on dives or starts specifically with my race costume on. The reason why we needed to practice this is because tech suits compress your muscles, so your position on the block might change slightly. So the two things we were figuring out was how to get my leg kick up so my dive was balanced, and how far I needed to do or how many kicks I needed to do to get to 15 meters, because it adjusts slightly when you're wearing a practice suit versus a race suit.
Cyclist Charles Kajimu, who races on Saturday in the 75-kilometer road race, is also in exuberant mode.
Yeah, we are just here. I've been on the route so far. Yeah, I'm taking everything slowly by slowly, waiting for Saturday.
The athletics team arrival created buzz around the Uganda team camp in the Games Village located in the northern Paris city of St. Denis.
Now, being an Olympian is something good, though it takes a lot of sacrifice. So my word to them is just let them keep focused, let them keep on working hard. There is nothing hard. No human is limited. So the sky is even the sky is never the limit. In fact, the sky is the beginning of everything.
4 athletes and their coaches and psychotherapists arrived. The athletes include Esther Chebet, Joy Cheptoyek, and Belinda Chemtai, who the women's 500-meter round won on Friday.
I know it has not been easy for me to qualify for Olympics, but it was just through God's grace that I made it to this Olympics. And I trusted the training that I've been doing with my coach, and I trusted also on God. That's why I made it to Olympics 2024 Paris.
The team that also included 10,000-meter runner Martin Sengengo Kiprotich arrived during lunch hour and enjoyed a meal in the French of this gigantic dining hall. The athletics team continued its arrive on Tuesday with Joshua Cheptegei, Jacob Kiprimo, Perth Chemtai, Tassis Ologot, Halima Nakai, and Winnie Nanyondo. John Ban Sentamu compiled this report.
John Barnes Sentamu's update from the Olympics that are ongoing in France brings us to the end of all we had for you this evening. Thanking you so much for watching. My name is Micheal Jordan Lukomwa. Enjoy the night. Bye-bye.
UBC, inspiring Uganda. Coming soon on UBC.
Welcome to Inside Broadcasting,
sharing with you the process behind what you see on the screens.
My name is Lorraine Masika Kazimoto.
Step behind the scenes and witness the magic that brings your daily broadcasts to life.
That's why I come out openly to actually tell you that I'm an investor.